This summer, I've been experimenting with oil pastels a lot. Today, I'm exploring oil pastels on a very smooth panel. As these are MDF panels, I first seal them with a layer of gel medium. I'm using acrylic soft gel for this, but something like a more fluid medium would work too. The panels I use here aren't archival, just regular panels that you can get at any arts and crafts store. So the medium creates a barrier between the panel and the gesso. And especially since I live in an area that goes from very humid summers to dry winters, I've also gotten into the habit of sealing my panel edges and the back to prevent the MDF or wood or whatever I'm using from absorbing moisture and slowly deforming with time. You don't absolutely have to do this, but I've just gotten into the habit since I paint on panels a lot and want to make sure the painting is safe over time. As you can see, for the first color layer, I'm just figuring out proportions and positioning, keeping the colors simple. I should probably mention what I'm even painting here. This is a master study of Frederick Leighton's Pavonia, or rather just a master study of her eye. The portrait has this very strong yellow hue, even leaning towards green, which I was excited to tackle here. I mostly use the Mungyo Gallery oil pastels during this sketching phase, as they are quite precise and I have the largest color selection to work with. On the first layer, these are very easy to control and almost feel like very soft, large colored pencils. It's when I start layering oil pastels that the fun begins. The layers interact with each other, becoming creamier and buttery as they blend into each other. And I can create quite subtle color transitions this way. I mostly focused on getting the eye itself right in the beginning and completely ignored the outer edges of the panel. While oil pastels can apply in pretty opaque layers, the more they are layered on top of each other, the more the colors will mix together no matter what. I found that this means it's easiest to not make any big corrections or changes during the painting process. I can change the colors or refine areas and define edges or soften them. But unlike with acrylics or even gouache, I wouldn't want to move the eye's pupil a bit to the side by painting over it, for example. That gets messy really quickly with oil pastels. The first phase of a painting, no matter the size, is where a lot of decisions are made. It's exciting and full of potential. But then the second phase of the painting, which takes the longest, at least for me, is what is often called the ugly phase. It no longer has the fun, loose nature of a sketch, but it's also far from finished. This is when I need to be more patient, something I had to learn over the years. In the past, I often gave up on paintings somewhere around here, or I'd skip ahead to details without getting the foundation done. To some degree, I am influenced by all of the sped up art process videos that I can see. And it gave me personally a bit of a skewed view of how fast I had to paint. As you can see, I'm not using the paper blending stamps much. The smooth surface of the gesso panel means that the oil pastels slide around way too much if I use the paper stamps. And I had more success just blending with other oil pastels on top. The white and pale yellow colors worked amazing for that, as did the ice blue shade for the cooler areas. As I finally reached the end of the ugly stage and had figured out what my next steps were, the greens came in full force. I'd used a lot of olive green shades from Mungyo, but now I also layered the Paul Rubens Macaron oil pastels on top, for even softer, creamier layers. Final highlights were when the blending stumps did come in handy. I used the very buttery Paul Rubens Tonoko shade and used the blending stump like a tiny palette knife to scrape off color and transfer it onto the painting. Of course, a panel painting like this wouldn't do well with a wax paper cover for protection, so to stop the oil pastels from smudging, I first let them dry over, I think, 2 days, and then applied pastel fixative spray. Not oil pastel fixative spray, as I haven't gotten around to buying that, but regular fixative used for soft pastels, charcoal or graphite. After that, I used acrylic varnish to truly seal the oil pastels in and to give it a subtle satin shimmer. In all my experiments so far, acrylic varnish and acrylic mediums on top of fixative spray have worked great for me, and I apply them with a very soft filbert brush and minimal pressure at first to not smudge the pastel layers, and then go in with more pressure once the pastels are behind that first protective layer. I'm really happy with the result and felt a little bit like a kid during an arts and crafts class, layering all these mediums, gesso, pastels and varnish. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next art video.